Hey fellow travelers, are you planning an Australian cruise or any other type of visit to Australia? If you are, then listen to this. I have a list of 10 things that are going to give you a case of culture shock when you go down under. Some of them are really going to mess with your head. I'm Jeff. This is Backroads Tourist. Now, this video is primarily for my viewers in the United States and Canada, but I know I have a lot of friends watching in Australia, so I want you guys to keep me honest. If anything I say here isn't true, you let me know in the comments section. The first thing that will mess with you is your flight from the States. Not only are you looking at about a 16-hour nonstop flight, but you're also going to be crossing over the international date line. That means you lose a day. You can leave Los Angeles on Friday night, fly for 16 hours, and arrive in Sydney on Sunday morning. Saturday just disappears. You may not think this will mess with you, but trust me, it will mess with you. It's also weird when you fly back to the States. You land in Los Angeles before you leave Sydney. Don't try to figure it out. It will drive you crazy. Here's the second thing that will confuse you, especially if you're traveling or cruising around Australia. Australia has several time zones, but they aren't like the time zones we have in the States. Here in the good old US of A, there's an hour time change between time zones, right? Well, in Australia, not so much. Some of them are half-hour or even quarter-hour time changes. And if that's not confusing enough, some states and territories use daylight savings time, and some don't. So now that we've established that you're not going to know what day it is or what time it is on your vacation, let's get to some other fun facts about Australia that will confuse you. Number 3, the price you see is the price you pay. The taxes are already built into the price. If the price tag says $10, boom, you pay $10. It's a breath of fresh air, and honestly, I really like it. And as long as we're talking about money, let's talk about tipping. Here in the States, we're used to a tipping culture. We feel like it's pretty much mandatory to tip for everything. Australia is a bit different. The tipping culture there isn't as pronounced because the minimum wage is pretty decent and workers don't rely on tips to survive. Tipping is entirely voluntary, and if you want to show your appreciation for great service, the standard tip is 10 to 15%. We'll get back to more money stuff in just a minute, but for number 5, let's talk kangaroos, probably the most iconic of animals from down under. Kangaroos are a big business, and it's not uncommon to visit a gift shop and see kangaroo hides, kangaroo paw back scratchers, kangaroo paw bottle openers, and little bags like this that are made from a certain part of a male kangaroo. 5 culture shock things down and 5 to go. Hey, if you find this video interesting, or if by any chance you're learning something, heaven forbid, give this video a like so it's more likely to be recommended to others. And if you would be so kind as to subscribe to the channel, I'll do my very best to make sure you don't regret it. Every week I have fun travel tips, visit unusual places, and keep you up to date on what's happening in the world of cruising. So click that subscribe button and come on along. Number 6, let's talk koalas. They're cute, they're adorable, and you really want to hold one, don't you? Well, your dream may come true if you're in the right part of Australia. It's legal to hold and touch koalas in Queensland, South Australia, and Western Australia, but it's not allowed in New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania, and the Northern Territory. That being said, you can still get close to them in those areas and get your picture taken with them, but no touchies. Number 7 is also wildlife related. You can see some awesome wildlife right in the heart of downtown Sydney. We had a hop-on, hop-off bus tour when we were there, and of course, we had to hop off and see the iconic Sydney Opera House, which is awesome, by the way. After we were done, we walked to the tour bus pickup spot about a block away by a park, and as we were waiting, we heard some noises. When we looked up, we saw dozens of parrots and cockatoos up in the trees, just being parrots and cockatoos. Yeah. The next night, we were walking near our hotel in downtown Sydney, and again we heard a rustling in the trees. We looked up, and we saw several large bats. Well, I thought they were bats, but after doing some research, I'm pretty sure that they were flying foxes, which is technically a type of bat, but bigger than the bats we have here in the States. Okay, let's revisit the money topic for number 8. It's called the Tourist Refund Scheme. Okay, your warning radar just went up, didn't it? Yeah, let me explain something to our Australian friends. Here in the States, the word scheme has sort of a negative connotation. Scheming is what villains do when they're planning to do something unlawful, so the word scheme is often associated with scams or nefarious activity. But this isn't the case here. The Tourist Refund Scheme is actually kind of cool. There's a lot more to it, but this is what it boils down to. If a tourist buys at least $300 Australian dollars worth of items from a supplier with the same Australian business number, and if they can put those items into their carry-on when they fly or sail out of the country, then they may be able to claim a goods and services tax refund on those items. Now, before you get too excited, there's a long list of do's and don'ts, and there's a bit of paperwork to fill out. For more information, just look up Australian Tourist Refund Scheme. It's a little bit of work, but it could save you some money in the long run. You're welcome. And as long as we're on the topic of money, number 9 is just how seriously awesome Australian currency looks. It's colorful. Parts of the bills are see-through, and it's made of a polymer instead of paper, and the portraits on the bills aren't just former politicians, but also poets, writers, social reformers. They even have an opera singer on there. As if that weren't enough, Australian bills have features to help the visually impaired too. Now, before I start hearing from my Canadian friends, I want to say that your bills are pretty awesome too. They're very similar to Australia's bills, but what I think gives the Aussies the edge here is that most of the Canadian bills just have portraits of former prime ministers, with the exception of your 20, which features Queen Elizabeth II. But when you compare either of those currencies to the United States, well, I have to say that our dab greens and grays just don't match up. So good on you, Australia and Canada. Your currencies rock. And finally, the 10th thing that's going to be a big culture shock when you visit Australia. From my experiences, most Australians are pretty laid back and pretty friendly. We found that to be true in the shops, the restaurants, and just casually talking to people on the streets or Aussies on our cruise. Now, I'm sure that if you look hard enough, you can find someone who's an unpleasant jerk, but overall, we encountered a lot of people who were just friendly, courteous, and helpful, more so than in most of the U.S. cities that we've been to. So let me ask you, have you been to Australia? What did I leave out? What would you include on the list? And Australian friends, did I get anything wrong? Let me know in the comments section. My wife and I love Australia. We can't wait to go back. Thanks for watching today. I'm Jeff, and I'll see you on the back roads or on a future cruise.